Hello, my fellow comic geeks. M.V.K here, back again. How's everybody doing? And today, on this review, this has highly been overdue, but I finally had the time to sit down and finally read it. I've had this title in my collection for a while, and I just been playing catch up with a lot of books, so I finally have had the time to sit down and read it and listen to it and enjoy it. And what is it? Well, we're in the world of DC. It's been a while since I reviewed a DC book on the channel. You know, guys, most of my DC titles now are going trade. I don't do a lot of single issues anymore, but we're here to talk about Robert Venditti, Will Fredero Torres, and Jordi Belair's Superman 78. That's a nice cover, right? And this back piece, but check this out. For everybody who's never had this book, what I love about the cover itself, look at that. It's like an old VHS tape. I love that. That's so cool. let me fix this. So, this is this was very fun to read. This was a very fun issue. I really enjoyed it very much because this is the Superman, of course, that many children of the 80s and late 70s grew up with. We grew up with Christopher Reeves, and still to this day we hold him very high as Superman. He was really, truly, in many people's eyes, the embodiment of Superman. And here, in this issue, in this mini-series, Mr. Venditti does a good job of giving us back to that old days. I can tell you right now, guys, when I was reading this, all I heard was Mr. Christopher Reeves, rest in peace, sir. All I heard is his voice coming out of Superman. All I heard was Margot Kidder coming out of Lois. All I heard was Gene Hackman voice coming out of Lex Luthor, and anybody else in between, Jimmy Olsen, Perry White. This series and Marlon Brando as Jor-El. So basically, this focuses on what if during still, I guess you could say, the Richard Donner run, because this is truly a tribute to him. What if we got Brainiac? The main antagonist in this series is one of my favorite Superman villains, also one of my favorite DC villains, Brainiac. Lex plays a role, but he's more of a side character. He's not the true antagonist. And to think about it, Lex wasn't Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor wasn't really the main antagonist in the four movies. After the first movie, he was kind of pushed to the sideline to most degree. Whether it was part 2, it was all focused on Zod, and then of course the fourth one we don't really talk about too much. But yeah, the point is, yes, this was focused on Brainiac. So what happens is, we see in the beginning Krypton is about to explode and everything like that. We see Jor-El and his wife Laura basically impending and knowing that it's coming. And unfortunately we see something happen, and then it fast forwards to the present time, and we're seeing the typical stuff. The writing in this just feels, just how Christopher Reeves played Clark Kent, very, very kind of goofy and kind of geeky and not really assured of himself. And he's like, golly, we should be on time. Perry doesn't like us being on time. And she's like, well, Clark, I need breakfast. They say it's the most important meal of the day. And what do we see Lois getting for breakfast? A hot dog. Remember in part 2, she was like, go get me a hamburger. And he's like, a hamburger at 9 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, stuff like that. It's reminiscing of those movies. And we see that all of a sudden an android falls into, something crash lands in Metropolis, and it's like a robot. And it's analyzing people, and it's looking for something. And eventually, of course, Superman comes in to analyze it, see what's going on. And Superman has to fight it, and later on it's revealed that Superman destroys it, breaks his head off, and then that's it. We see Lex Luthor is on parole now, and he is at the parole board getting, I guess he's trying to look for employment. And the employment is not up to scuff for the greatest criminal mind in the world. You know, it's not up to scuff, but when he goes back to his apartment, we see Superman's in there. And basically, it's shown in this that the only way that he was going to be let out on parole is if Superman keep an eye on him. So Superman's keeping an eye on him, and he's like, I need your help. Check this out. You know, he gives him that android head, and Lex is like, okay, and you know, kind of like, you know, he's doing his own under my. So Lex hits a button in his like 1-bedroom apartment, and this big laboratory opens up, and I'm like, typical Lex. But yeah, from there we start to see that there is more than meets the eye from this, because before the android was offline, it sent the transmission to a mothership, and that mothership, of course, is Brainiac. Brainiac comes down, of course, later on, and he is basically saying, you know, I want the Kryptonian. It kind of feels a little bit like how Brainiac was portrayed in Injustice 2. He's basically saying to the people of Earth, he's like, he's a threat, he's a threat, and it'll mess up your ecosystem. He's pulling a lot of things that is just like, it was really interesting how Venditti wrote Brainiac in this. And so when Brainiac comes down and sends more of his troops down, Clark starts to fight them again, but then he realizes that Brainiac decides, if you don't come, then I'll hurt the people. And when that happens, Clark does the ideal thing. He surrenders. He's like, no, don't do this. I'll surrender. And you see, there are just scenes in the artwork that reminisce back to those movies, especially Superman 2. There's a panel that looks straight out of Superman 2 when the citizens of Metropolis think Superman was killed by Zod and them, and you see people picking up sticks and coming at them. It's right out of that panel. I'm like, oh my God, that was right there. And you see that, and it's just like they're like, no, we're not going to give up. They're like, he's welcome here. Like, we all come from somewhere, and it's really good writing on Venditti's part. But Superman tells him, please, like, let me go. I don't want you all getting hurt. He says goodbye to Lois, and then he goes to Brainiac's ship. There, Brainiac shrinks him, preserves him, and this is where it comes, where he's not portrayed as the Brainiac that we know to some degree. And here, Venditti makes him a little bit differently. Instead of being the Brainiac that he values knowledge, and he gains the knowledge, and then he discards everything else. He destroys everything else. Here, it's almost like he's portrayed more as remember in the animated series, the Preserver, that egg-like creature that wanted to capture Superman and capture Lobo. That's what he's portrayed a little bit more as. And when he goes he shrinks down into, one of the models, his parents are there. Jor-El and Laura and some other Kryptonians are there. Clark sees his birth parents. So before Krypton exploded, Brainiac took the Kryptonians and shrunk them down into his little preservers, prisons, and he's there, and he's welcomed by his parents and Jor-El, and you could see Jor-El is looking just like how Marlon Brando looked like in the first movie. And here when he's talking, my son Kal-El, and it's like you're hearing that, and I'm like, oh my God. For me, I'm hearing that, and Laura is just so happy to see her son, and even after a while, he takes off the super suit, goes into that white suit that the Kryptonians were wearing in the movies with the House of L on there, and she starts talking about things, and he brings up the Kents and what they did for him, and you would think, oh, Laura would be a little bit jealous, but she's not. She's just happy that her son got to grow up and how these people raised him and well, and she even says that they sound like very nice people, and and then they're at this zoo, and Clark touches one of the animals, and it's like it's an animal it's got like a psychic link and can project people's thoughts. And Laura says, "Who is she?" And he's like, "Who's who?" And he says, "Who's the woman?" And he basically says, her name is Lois Lane, the love of my life. And as a mother, she's just happy and things like that. And then we see kind of Clark is introduced to all the other surviving Kryptonians, people from different houses, and they're like, you should get married. You could be the House of L mixed with the House of Aura, and do make good. And Clark feels like he doesn't belong here. It kind of feels like high class society with him, and he even tells his dad, he's just like, I don't fit in here. I don't. I grew up on a farm. I grew up, hamburgers and football and things like that. I don't fit in here. And before that, Jor-El had lost a lot of hope, and a lot of people lost a lot of hope, but he came. Then we see that before Clark was taken away, Lex Luthor planted a bug on him to keep track of. He tells Lois what's going on, and he sends a signal out to Lois to tell him. However, that signal's picked up. Brainiac comes back to Earth because now he feels that now they're not as primitive as they are, and they need to be dealt with in a sense. So it is up to Clark and his parents to get free, and they're able to get Clark free. He comes out, he battles Brainiac, and while Brainiac is pulling Metropolis up, and there's another scene which I gotta show. Where is it? It's really funny. It's another scene that just was like, wait, what? Where is it? It is right. Oh my God, where is it? It's funny as hell because I'm like, no. Look at that. Who are these three? Who are these four boys right here? Come on, Mr. Venditti. Come on, guys. What was that? I was like, holy crap. But yes, so Superman gets free. He defeats Brainiac even when Brainiac is in a more powerful suit. And Brainiac, even though he's defeated, Brainiac subconsciously puts himself in another android, like another body, because he has other preserves around. But his ship blows up. Superman gathers all the cities and stuff and flies and gets them safe. But Metropolis is still falling. So Superman does what he does best. He's holding it up and he's pushing it down and he's pushing it down and he's pushing it down and boom, and safely, and he comes out and waves everybody, and that's it. Superman saves the day. And then we see in Perry like, what's going on? What's the news today? And Clark is being, well, Perry, golly, Perry, I had all that rumbling gave me a bad headache. I didn't get on, and he turns to Lois, and help him out. It's just classic stuff. This was just written as an homage to Richard Donner. Rest in peace to Richard Donner. This was just fun. I loved it. Even the end kind of reminded me of, the old school Superman when he's flying out in space and he looks and smiles and flies. I'm like, this was good. This was so much fun. I'm believing this is kind of supposed to be taking place, I would say, in between 2 and 3. Let me make sure, because let me see. Yeah, Superman 2 So it's in between 1 and 2, because Superman 2 came out in 1980s. So it's in between that. That's where I'm looking at the story, or it could be wrong. It could be after. It just felt like it was in between. Maybe it came after 2, and it's right there. It's between 2 and 3. Yeah, those the ones that we don't really talk about. But it was fun. This was really fun. I really enjoyed this. I do recommend it. If you are a fan of, not just a fan of, the old Christopher Reeve Superman, but if you're a fan of just Superman, trust me, you'll love this. I really enjoyed this very much. I had a lot of fun reading this bad boy. I just sat down, put some music on, and I'm just reading it, and I'm just hearing, Christopher Reeve's voice come out of this, and I'm just like, I wasn't hearing my favorite voice for Superman. My favorite voice for Superman is Tim Daly. I know other people have different favorite voice actors who play Superman. Mine is Tim Daly, but I didn't hear that. I heard Christopher Reeves, and it was just so much fun. This was fun. If I was giving this a rating, almost a perfect 10. I would say 9.5. This was good. Very good indeed. So, guys, that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed my review on Superman 78. I had so much fun with that book. That was just so much fun to read. I do recommend it, guys. If you have not read it, check it out. It was fun, and it gives me hope and pray that we will see Brainiac in somewhere, shape, or form in the future. Yes, it has been acknowledged, as Henry Cavill has admitted, he is back as Superman. Warner Brothers, don't do him dirty. Give this man what he needs and give us Brainiac. That is the one villain I really want to see on the big screen, and we have never had him yet. I want Brainiac. But outside of that, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Keep reading, my fellow geeks, because you know I am. Deuces.